Hi. May I please grab your attention? Before starting the event, I would humbly request everyone to keep their mobile phones on a silent mode for the smooth running of the event. Okay, so good morning everyone. I am Ritika and I extend a warm welcome to all the respected guests who have joined us today. We are here to celebrate the launch of an insightful book, CAG, Ensuring Accountability Amidst Controversies by Sesh Kumar. In his book, Mr. Kumar has highlighted the pivotal role of CAG in promoting transparency and good governance. The book examines CAG's the book examines CAG's domestic and international achievements and challenges, including systematic reforms promoted by its audits and global recognition from organizations like the United Nations. We shall hear more about the book from Sir shortly. Today's event promises to be engaging, insightful, and inspiring, featuring in-depth discussion and an opportunity to interact with the brilliant mind we have with us today. We are honored to have with us today P. Sesh Kumar, the esteemed author of the book. I would like to now invite him here to please have a seat here. Mr. Kumar began his professional journey by joining the Indian Audit and Accounts Service in 1982. He holds an honors degree in chemistry and postgraduate diploma in business management. Over the course of more than 33 years, he has served in various capacities outside the Indian Audit and Accounts Department. His assignments included 4 years with the Department of Atomic Energy as Deputy Secretary and Director, followed by 5 years as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, where he played a significant role in policy formation and implementation. After his retirement, he was appointed by the Ministry of Civil Aviation in 2016 as the sole arbitrator in the arbitration matter. He was subsequently named Secretary to the Supreme Court Mandated Oversight Committee on the Medical Council of India, serving in that role from 2016 to 2017. Currently, Mr. Kumar is involved in part-time consultancy work focusing on corporate social responsibility, corporate governance and taxation. In addition to his professional engagements, he also supports several charitable organizations in an honorary capacity, providing guidance on regulatory and taxation-related matters. Let us welcome him with a huge round of applause. Okay, it is with great respect and warmth that we welcome our special guest whose esteemed presence today graces this occasion and elevates its importance. I would like to invite Shri Raghubir Singh, IAAS of 1972 batch, who held various senior and important positions. He has the important positions such as Principal AG in Punjab, Haryana, Deputy CAG, and Special Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in Government of India. Now I would like to invite Shri Balwinder Singh Ji, IAAS batch, held the prestigious post of member in National Company Law Appellate Tribunal after his superannuation as Deputy CAG. Please welcome him. Please have a seat, sir. Okay, so now I would like to invite Shri Jagbant Singh Ji, IAS 1986 batch, retired as Deputy CAG, after which he held the post of Chairman of Punjab Public Service Commission. He also held various significant posts of Director, General, International Relations in CAG. Please welcome him. We are indeed fortunate to have you with us today. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, now I extend a very warm welcome to all our friends from the media who have joined us today. Your support and encouragement is highly appreciated. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so now is the moment we have all been waiting for, the official launch of the book. Let us now have a complete look at the book that aims to clarify the role of the CAG, enhance public understanding, and present a balanced yet critical view on strengthening this cornerstone of Indian democracy. Let's now begin the book release ceremony. We wish Sesh Kumar ji lots of success with his book. I would now like to invite Mrs. Navsangeet Kaur to present the Literary Award of Excellence to Mr. Sesh Kumar in recognition of his contribution to the world of literature.
That's all.
Thank you so much, sir. I now have the privilege of inviting the author, Mr. Sesh Kumar, to share his insights and reflections on the book from his unique perspective. Please welcome, sir.
At the outset, I think I should express my profound sense of respect and gratitude to special guests seated on the dais. The special guests seated on the dais. श्री रघुवीर सिंह जी, जैसे मैंने कहा उनसे अभी कि मेरे लिए गुरु हुए हैं, great philosopher and well-wisher. इन्होंने CAG संस्था में 1989 में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण काम किया। आप सबको जिनको उस वक्त की घटना याद है, his seminal contribution is that CAG can question the higher judiciary, including a High Court judge. In fact, the matter became so sensitive, important, significant for the financial accountability in judiciary, higher judiciary, that it stands as a case study. I am referring to now late Sri V. Ramaswamyji's impeachment case. It went up to impeachment. For various reasons, it didn't come through. But Mr. Raghuveer Singh, he not only piloted, he defended, and he attended a very inquisitive investigation process where he had to render evidence. That is the sort of personality Shri Singh ji has been. He has held all charges here in Chandigarh in Punjab.
Very well said, sir.
Principal David audit accounts, Chandigarh, Matlab Haryana, Punjab, every office he has. And he retired ultimately as Special Secretary, Government of India, a very prestigious post in Minister of Health and Family Welfare. So I really express my gratitude for taking time and coming and supporting and encouraging me in this small endeavor of mine. Next is Shri Balwinder Singh. Balwinder Singh जी हमारे लिए भाई समान है। उससे भी ज़्यादा उनकी जो आउटस्पोकननेस है, जो डेप्थ ऑफ नॉलेज है, and quick grasp of nuances of legal or any other issue, he is unique. In fact, Balwinder ji, he has probably the only officer in our service who has gone to occupy a very prestigious post, equal to almost a high court judge in the National Company Appellate Law Tribunal, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. And he had a distinction in a very difficult, evolving subject of bankruptcy and insolvency. In fact, I have to accept that I will convey my profound regards to him for his accepting and spending some time with me today on this occasion. Now I come to Jagwant Singh ji. Jagwant Singh ji just superannuated as chairman of a very prestigious state government organization, the Punjab Public Service. Before that, he was a deputy CAG, and he has had very prestigious assignments within the CAG's establishment, say, the Director General of International Relations. He has trained a number of IAS probationers in Shimla as the Director General of the Academy, and is the authority, a very unassuming, simple person, man of profound thoughts and strong beliefs. In fact, I express my sincere gratitude to him for gracing today's occasion. Now, let me also thank all the members of the Institute of Public Auditors, Chandigarh branch, for having taken time off on a weekend and trying to listen to me and think about this book and sharing their thoughts with me, or their presence with me on a very important occasion personally for me. Thank you very much. Now let me come to the formal part of the book. Distinguished guests, colleagues, friends and well-wishers. It is a privilege and a delight to stand before you today in this beautiful, vibrant city of Chandigarh for the second formal launch of my book, CAG, Ensuring Accountability Amidst Controversies. And Inside You. The last words, Inside You, is important. This book is many things: a memoir, a reflection, an insider's testimony, and most importantly, a call to conscience. For someone who has spent more than 3 decades in the Indian Audit and Accounts Department, the book is not just about audit reports or the arithmetic of public finance. It's a conversation starter, a walk through the corridors of power and policy, where audit is both a scalpel and a mirror. The question that arises is why this book and why now? Because never before has India's top audit institution been subjected to such intense public scrutiny, sometimes celebrated, sometimes ridiculed, and often misunderstood. One moment the CAG is fated with exposing massive losses in cases like 2G, road-like allocation, or in abominable games, and also disinvestment. The next it is dismissed as a hallucinating institution. Let us not forget that one union minister called the CAG a joker after the Bofors report in 1989, and another declared in 2005 that the CAG was given to illusion following the disinvestment audits. And yet, when the Supreme Court relied on same CAG's reports to annul the 2G licenses and cancel coal block allocations in 2012, the institution's credibility found its vindication. This book was not born out of a sudden burst of creativity. It emerged slowly, shaped by years of experience, field inspections, policy dialogues, media storms, court battles, and many sleepless nights. It's an effort to separate myths from mandate, perception from principle. Let me share what the book tries to do. We start with Google's audit that shook the nation, and move on to the infamous triumvirate of controversies, the 2G, core, and the Commonwealth Games. I take you behind the scenes into how these reports were prepared, how numbers like presumptive losses were arrived at, and how the narrative often spun out of the auditor's hands into the furnace of public and political opinion. But it is not just a story of controversies. The book also explores the CAG's evolution from a Muniji or an accountant, keeping account of rupees spent, to a performance auditor assessing flagship schemes like Swachh Bharat, the Rural Guarantee Scheme, Employment Guarantee Scheme, Rural Electrification, to speak about the scheme. It unpacks the rise of the now famous but still technically undefined term presumptive loss and questions its place in audit vocabulary. In fact, the term finds no mention in any national or international accounting standard, and yet it captured the nation's imagination like nothing else. There is a chapter on CAG's international engagements in a limited manner, that is, auditing the United Nations, the World Food Programme, and other global entities. Yes, India CAG is a global player, but we rarely acknowledge this stature. The book raises uncomfortable questions too. For instance, why has India's CAG not undergone a rigorous external peer review since 2012? When the Australian National Audit Office last did a broad brush exercise. Many countries' peer reviews are routine and critical to maintaining credibility. Who audits the auditor? This should no longer be a rhetorical question. The book also asks, should all decisions in the CAG office be made by a single constitutional authority? There have been rather unsavory instances of administrative miscalculations, leading to embarrassing situations in recent times. Isn't it time for a collegial system, a panel-based CAG, as envisioned by the Constitutional Review Commission long back in 2002? Such a reform would not dilute the institution's power, it would strengthen its objectivity and institutional resilience. And then there is a sobering twist brought by the Supreme Court's judgment in August 2024, which stated that CAG's reports are merely opinions until vetted by the Public Accounts Committee. This is a remarkable reversal from the 2012 verdict, where the Amidst Court declared that CAG is not just a money. What's worse, the government can delay placing audit reports in Parliament by 6 months, a year, or more. It has happened in Delhi, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and in a few cases. Rendering them stale, not irrelevant. The auditor becomes a spineless spectator, watching accountability wither under the weight of procedural inertia. But this is not a lament, it's a constructive critique. The book argues forcefully, in my view, that audit institutions must themselves submit to scrutiny. The CAG demands accountability from others, it must embrace accountability itself. We need clearer audit methodologies that don't invite needless speculation. We need less redaction, Rafael report 2019 as an example, and more transparency. We must learn to distinguish governance failures from financial fraud. We must bring data analytics, artificial intelligence, and real-time dashboards. The CAG is engaged on these activities. And most importantly, we must invite regular international peer review. The defect of presumptive loss must also be revisited. Audit cannot rely on extrapolations without explaining their assumptions. None of the 500 odd reports of CAG since 2012 have contained a reference to this term. It cannot be reduced to a game of numbers played in hindsight. The auditor's job is not to frighten, but to enlighten, not to paralyze policy, but to nudge it towards prudence. No institution, however powerful or independent, is above introspection. This is the message I try to convey in this book. The CAG included. Public expectations are rising, democratic institutions must rise higher still. I have tried to offer a balanced perspective in my view. I do not paint the CAG as a savior or a sinner. I do not claim that every audit report is flawless, but I do argue that audit, when done right, is democracy's insurance policy. It's the moral compass that alerts a nation when governance goes off course. This book is deeply personal. I have encountered moments when audit teams were stonewalled, when reports were denied, when ministries browbeat auditors, and when headlines outpaced truth. But I have also shared the pride of belonging to a cadre that still guards the sanctity of public finance. In the end, I don't seek consensus. I seek conversation. If this book starts a debate, if it compels an administrator to rethink transparency, or inspire the young auditor to question more deeply, then I would consider it a success. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Your presence affirms that the journey of accountability, however contested, is one that we must walk together. In fact, before I conclude, I have dedicated this book to a team of silent warriors who are the real foot soldiers of CAG. These are our audit officers and accounts officers who are mostly anonymous and they are behind the scenes players. I have learned a lot in my career from many of those accounts officers and audit officers. And this book, CAG Ensuring Accountability and Controversies and Insighting, is just an appetite. The main course is awaiting. In fact, I am working on my second book, which would deal with CAG, what it ought to be auditing, and probably is not auditing for various reasons. That should also be through the White Falcon publishers of Nursing Milk College in a few months' time. I conclude by referring to the recent initiatives of CAG, which are relevant to understanding the institution. See, the improvement of audit skills, continuous upgradation is a priority. This could be seen in the latest CAG initiatives and entering into MOUs with very prestigious institutions like the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and even our own Institute of Public Auditors of India for various initiatives and skill upgradation. In fact, I end my remarks by once again thanking the special guests and all of you who have attended and encouraged me in my small humble effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your knowledge and your wisdom. It was lovely having you here. Thank you so much again. I would now like to invite Shri Raghuveer Singh Ji to speak a few words on the occasion. Please welcome.
My esteemed colleagues as continuously advancing and my senior colleagues here in the audience and members of the audience. It's an occasion to reflect on the working of our department. There is 20 years together, 30 years, 40 years, plus for us, 37 years by me. And having been written on the working of the department means the apex functionary of the department CAG, and counting his responsibility amidst the controversies. It's a huge task. Somebody had to take that responsibility of writing it. Sesh Kumar was old enough, very well suited. We worked together as colleagues for a good time. At a time when he and we were challenged to accomplish some tasks. One office was dysfunctional for about 2 years because of the terrorism. We were called upon to revive that office, to make it functional again. to start the audit activities so that we start conducting the audit and start compiling the accounts and start disbursing the pension and the MPF entitlement also. We were one of the persons without whose assistance and the active advice I could not have run the office. I knew that this person at that time rather a junior officer is bound to be one of the strength of the department. Not only he fulfilled his responsibilities in the most competent manner during his service career, but then after retirement, this is what was expected from a person like me. Write a book where it is called for. That subject was crying for some sort of treatment by a professional, and professional Mr. Sesh Kumar. Now, about the CAG. This is one institution which was expected to do so much under the Constitution. Whether it came up to the expectation of the democracy or the people who are participating in the democracy, that would be a subject particularly to be discussed. Nobody could imagine under the scheme of things that the executive in the scheme of things in India under the Constitution would be growing so strong gradually that ultimately executive would be overshadowing the other departments, other wings of the government, other wings of the governments. Seemingly, executive is able to influence even the judiciary now. To what extent it's one's own perception, or maybe even as a people might judge it with reference to their one's not only perception but critical application also. So, in the case of a very strong executive that we have come to have now, an institution like CAG or Election Commission of India or CBC, our Planning Commission, so these are institutions which have very robust code, expectations were allowed, how have they performed. This in itself is some sort of strength in measures, in small measures with reference to those institutions. Some people take it up. We are fortunate that somebody has made, irrespective of our department. I'm calling it, I know, I'm conscious of the fact that there are people who are outside of the department also are thankful. They are listening to us. But anyway, this department is known to all of us. We are at least discussing pension. We are taking the accounts of your parents or your brothers and sisters, GPF accounts and all that. And in any case, we are auditing those institutions, those offices, which affect state government offices, central government offices. So, and on the other side, most government is there. So when we are talking of our institution, our department, our CAG, the CAG under whom we were, or we were part of that institution, we have our own respective achievements also in advising the CAG, being participant in this work. Any institution, including the executive which I have attended, is a product of the society where the institution functions. Our Indian polity, society, the nation, itself has evolved. Evolved from the troubled time to the unpleasant time of, let us say, the colonial rules, when we were not really free to shape our institutions, shape our destiny. So, new institutions having come up, like CAG's office, CAG, let us say, the institution, Election Commission, even the Supreme Court of India as an independent from Privy Council of UK. Then, these institutions were required to perform. Expectations were allowed. But ultimately, how have they evolved? they have evolved almost all institutions, the way our polity, our society, our nation has evolved. Remember those days when in our respective societies, the word of mouth was taken for granted. We have seen glimpses of that society, which was trust-based society. Then came the time of affidavits. Nothing is true unless it is put into an affidavit, sworn and all, but nothing else. And all our certificates were required to be attested by some registered officer and all that. Some effort has been made again to go back to reverse, that is probably self-attestation, affidavit. So, a trust-based society, which traditionally Indian society was, how did it happen that we have so much of outstanding credit cards, loans, so much of let's say bad debts being become controversial? Our industrial houses, they are people who probably are not honest enough in taking the loans for the industry, for the development of the industry. What kind of things have happened so far interference in the, let's say, working of the banking system is concerned? Contracts be rolled out, let's say, objectively, should be rolled. Yes, not rolling out objectively, that is, a bad phase itself. Yes, the contracts being finalized objectively by the executive, but those very contracts being given in some kind of favor roles, a matter of given election bonds and all that, whatever had happened, judgment of the Supreme Court. These are the controversies which ultimately would have landed and should land on the favor of somebody. CAG was one institution which was supposed to have dealt with all these financial controversies, financial responsibilities of the state, where we were supposed to be performing our role. It was an institution which was expected to be very strong in the hands of a person like Sesh. The department would have been different, but then ultimately we continued to be a department where we don't have the powers of forcing the executive in giving the records to us within a date bound time. And having given the records, when we ask them whether this information which you have given is complete or not, we have no way of really ensuring the accountability of the person, of the executive, who deliberately doesn't give us complete information or gives us misleading information. Again, that is left to the executive. It depends on what kind of sincerity the executive has in giving a cooperation to us, the institution, our institution. During our service career, I was not able to get satisfactory reply from my own colleagues when I raised the simple question that a private citizen can file an FIR in a criminal case where fraud has taken place. Why can't we do as an institution? CAG, when we are reporting a fraud in our audit, CAG, PAG signing it, CAG counter signing it and all that. If fraud has happened, you are certifying it, you are a professional body. A doctor says that this person is diseased, he should be isolated, or he should be administered such and such medicine. Nobody questions that. He is a professional. And when some professional under the Constitution says a fraud has taken place, the irregularity of the magnitude that it would be injurious to the vital health of the financial health of the state, or let's say an audit organization, some PSU or something. Why can't we be bold enough in the CAG's office to file an FIR so that the police or in these days, this ED, and whatnot and all. Why ED? ED is usually. So why should they not take cognizance of an FIR or a document sent by the CAG office? Well, it's just institutions are as good as the people man them, and the institutions are as good as in the environment in which they work. These are the main constants of this, in my opinion, of all the constants and of all the, let's say, advantages that the CAG has under the Constitution. I'm flagging these two flaws. And thank you very much for listening to me. I have exceeded my time, those 10 minutes. Say my dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views with us. Now I would like to invite Shri Balwinder Singh Ji to enlighten us with his words. Please welcome with a huge round of applause.
All my friends and colleagues, superior my lives and of their lives. I don't have really much to say what my earlier speaker had already said, but I will put some thought process before you to ponder about it, big problem the book is. And I think we just do it practical, not actually but we haven't. Because all of our lives are 35 years, 37 years, we have one kind of the work problem. But I will just put one focus. Different relevant to all of you. And I will use actually our local language also. Hindi, Punjabi, so people take dialogue like that. So in one of the meetings, which I say, भाई CAG क्या करता है क्या नहीं करता है, but the cricket match which came from one of the chief justices, he said भगवान को मरने के बाद हिसाब बनता है, ये भी नहीं बनता है. So that is the spirit of भगवान भी हिसाब अक्सर विश्वास करते हैं, भगवान मरने के बाद हिसाब करते हैं. जैसे रेसिशन जो यहाँ ही हिसाब. So I think this is one cricket thinking. Now the other counterpart, that's what is a good statement. Auditors का काम तो अच्छा नहीं है या बुरा नहीं, लेकिन करने के लिए हौसला चाहिए. At one of our constitutional discussions, auditors' role was superior to judiciaries. Dr. Ambedkar asked. Because जुडिशरी के पास आदमी फरियाद लेके जाता है, एक आदमी विक्टिम है, एक कुछ गड़बड़ करता है, एक विक्टिम है. लेकिन ऑडिटर के पास जो विक्टिम करता है वो भी नहीं रेस्पेक्ट करता है, ना उसको कंप्लेंट एडिट करने देता है. ऑडिटर को खुद ही पढ़ना है, खुद ही लिखना है, फिर उसके बाद मेक सम ऑब्जर्वेशन उसको डिबेट भी करना है. और this is a little bit of other bracket. ये देखिए ये सिचुएशन क्या है. अगर आपने कुछ लिखा तो गवर्नमेंट वाले क्या कहते हैं, अरे these auditors do not know anything. They are all, we could have done much more things. They are acting like a brake. But if you see the film simply, भाई गाड़ी के अंदर ब्रेक को निकाल के गाड़ी चला रहे हैं. अगर गाड़ी को चलाना है तो ब्रेक चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट को ढंग से चलाना है तो ब्रेक चाहिए. इंडिपेंडेंट इंस्टीट्यूशन को ब्रेक का कॉपी करते हैं कि एक्सीडेंट बच. जो ऑडिटर्स का काम यही है, यहाँ अनकंफर्टेबल थिंग्स है, दे आर आल्सो टू बी टोल्ड. And one again, I'm not quoting from our other sources, but our interactions. Again, one chief minister said so. Again, chief minister once said so. But auditors के पास हिम्मत तो चाहिएगा, क्योंकि बुरे आदमी को बुरा कहने की हिम्मत किसी में होती है, बुरे आदमी को अच्छा सा कह देंगे कि तुमने गलत काम किया है, ये कहना ये हौसले का काम. सब लोग अच्छे ताकतवर आदमी को अच्छा कहने में ज्यादा विश्वास रखते हैं। उसको ये कहने के लिए, आईना दिखाने के लिए जो तुम काम कर रहे हो वो अच्छा नहीं किया। That is the point. Spirit of positivity. और तीसरी बात accountability and accountability. सब आदमी कहते हैं यार मैं बड़ा अफसर हूँ, मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो। He said मेरे पास power है, मेरे पास सब कुछ। There are two great things from world है। Power होना किसी के पास, it's a trust value। भाई उसको अंदर power use करने का trust किया जाता है। ये नहीं कि जो मर्जी करो। ट्रस्ट ये है कि जो भी डिसीजन आपको करना है वो उसमें दो चीजें देखनी जरूरी है कि क्या इस पावर को यूज करने की जरूरत है। अगर इसको जरूरत है, क्या मैं इसको पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट के लिए यूज करूंगा या प्राइवेट इंटरेस्ट के लिए यूज करूंगा। The whole government is here. Wherever the power will be used for not for public purpose, it is accounting misuse, and accountability is to bring this into focus, and the power has to misuse not for the public purpose. So this is what the whole gamut is there. The auditors, they are great also, they are required also, they are required to be bold also, they are supposed to be as good as a common human being. And when the great scandals take place, people do talk about, is there any lack of rules? Is there what went wrong? And the great depression or great scandal which took place in 2008 worldwide, Economist magazine actually ultimately printed, everybody is making this have changed, this have changed, this have changed. The concluding part of the Economist system from 2008, it only said, we will keep making rules also, we will keep breaking rules also, so long as you maintain your integrity. A person may be inefficient. A person may be inefficient because he doesn't know the job. But not maintaining integrity is not related to the job. It is everywhere. Because that is a personal trait which the people has to have. Rules and regulation in competency is a different issue. But maintaining integrity. Those systems integrities are maintained by somebody who is a third party, not interested. He comes once in a while, and I will just finish up with this. He comes once in a while and sees something wrong, and I will give you one very simple illustration. If we learned it very earlier, so we were told also. You go to a particular office, go to the gate, sit there in the gate for 5 minutes. People will know whether the office is efficient, inefficient, corrupt or not. Unfortunately, only the officers managing the offices do not do it. And this is where the role of auditors. I had gone to a particular office, just go there because we have been a consumer authority office. Gate पे मिलने वाला बोलता है बड़ा खुश आदमी है। Is this not a comment? दूसरा आदमी अरे यार वो बंदा जो है वो बंदा। This is what is basically achieved not. God rules and governance have. And auditors are a structured program to come to the conclusion not on a hearsay but based on economic. And this is what the book deals with. At least I could gather out of it. Not only that we could gather out of it because our own experience actually gels everything to the book. And I congratulate the author. He has taken pains to break a talk which was probably understood by our fraternity. He has taken a bold step to make it understand the whole of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your views with your amazing statements. Lastly, I would like to request Shri Jagbant Singh Ji to share his thoughts on the book and his association with Mr. Sesh Kumar. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Mr. Sesh Kumar, distinguished speakers, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I think we all should compliment Mr. Sesh Kumar on this outstanding book. And I call it outstanding for very valid reasons. If you read the book, you would realize that it is a critique of the functioning of the CAG. And there are many issues which Mr. Sesh Kumar mentioned in his opening address itself, where he has pointed out many issues which need a very active and vigorous discussion within the organization. Mr. Sesh Kumar has spent more than 50 years in the service, and I can tell you how difficult it is to detach yourself from your current body or an institution where you work for so long and look at it objectively. It's more like an out-of-body experience where you get out of your body and look at your body with all its imperfections and warps. It's not an easy job. I have tried doing it in some other contexts. Invariably, instinctively, and subconsciously, you end up defending everything because you've been a part of the system. When you spend 30 plus years in an institution, you are very much a part of the system, and then to look at that system objectively is a very different task. So I compliment you, sir, on that wonderful initiative and endeavor of yours. I think, as Mr. Sesh Kumar himself mentioned, this book would have served its purpose if it stimulates a discussion within the organization. Great institutions become great only when they prospect, when they look at not at the good things in the institution, but look at things where some attention is needed, where there are shortcomings. And I think there are enough pointers in this book which need discussion. There is a possibility that after due deliberation and discussions, there could be some matters on which no action would be deemed necessary. That is all right. But I'm sure there could be at least a few areas where there needs to be some action or some rectification ordered or looked at. So, with your permission, I would like to weigh in on some of the issues which you raised in the book. I'll be going into some of this. I'll be going into some of the specifics. I must also compliment Mr. Sesh Kumar on his writing. It's direct, it's in your face, it sort of catches your eyeballs immediately, and some of the titles of the chapters are themselves very catchy, I would say. He starts off with some of the most controversial reports of the CAG, and the title says, was there anything wrong with the CAG's audit report on the allocation of spectrum, or was there anything wrong with the CAG's audit report on allocation of codes? So the writing is direct, it cuts to the chase, as they say in English, and it sort of doesn't beat around the bush. As Mr. Sesh Kumar also mentioned, I think the book addresses two major elephants in the room. One is about the CAG's report of the spectrum, and the other of the core laws. He also discusses this concept of presumptive loss, and in his opening remarks, he also referred to that. I am not a part, though I was in the CAG's office during that period when these two reports were finalized, but I was not a part of the report work at that point in time. I was looking for heading a very different section. But still, one would hear what was going around. And before I discuss this, let me narrate an incident which happened in 2009. I think it was 2009. India Today came out with an edition. The cover story in India Today was 10 most important institutions in India. Right? So it listed of various institutions, listed of Election Commission, Planning Commission. Even the CBC was added in that list, but the CAG's name was missing. So that obviously, the CAG at the time was very visibly anguished at that the CAG's become irrelevant. We were all also in a state of consternation. I remember in a meeting with the officers at that time. The then CAG mentioned that we're going to keep quoting Baba Sahib Ambedkar ad nauseam, saying how great an institution is, but the world doesn't think much of it. So I think that Probably, or there is no direct linkage with that, but that is probably something which sets journey inside the CAG's office. So probably I'm not drawing a linkage between the subsequent reports that happened, but that certainly was one of the incidents that happened, and it sort of set some sort of opened up a discussion. At the time when the spectrum report was being finalized, there was a lot of discussion amongst the team of officers who were finalizing the report about how to project the opportunity cost. Right? So the presumptive loss, in my opinion, is also another term for opportunity cost. That you went in for one option, whereas you ignored the other option. So had you actually opted for the other option, what would have been the result? So that was it, and that probably gives a brief background, and eventually I think what happened in the report was that opportunity, this term was called presumptive loss, which as Mr. Sesh Kumar very rightly mentions, is not there in any of the accounting or auditing standards which we follow. I also think that it also gives rise to the question whether the CAG is competent to discuss policy or not. Because this whole business of whether the CAG was right discussing or objecting to the first come first served basis for the allocation of spectrum. And as I said, I'm not privy to the report, and I was not privy to the papers of the Ministry of the Government of India. But if the policy is well formulated and well reasoned out, if all the options which are available to the government at the point the policy is formulated are considered, and then a reasoned decision is taken, that here, that if we go for option, this is what would be the result. If we go for first come first served basis, this is what we might use financially, but it serves a larger public interest. So therefore, we should go for a first come first served basis. I think that discussion being there, probably there would have been no occasion to see if you question that, right? And that forms I would say that is what the audit normally would look at when you are looking at the formulation of policy. I happen to read that Mr. Sesh Kumar spoke about the comments made by the then Finance Secretary, Mr. Subba. Right, so he mentioned that if that was the case, would the CAG then start objecting to every tax concession given in the budget? Right, the budget is a legislative document, so budget is approved by the Parliament. So there is no question of CAG objecting to anything which has been approved by the Parliament. But besides that, the CAG has actually looked at the number of, given the tax, if you stay in the tax act, the CAG has actually looked at the number of amnesty schemes within the tax act, and Mr. Sesh Kumar discusses the voluntary disclosure of income scheme. Right? Where normally in a tax policy case, the implications of that policy are discussed up front. Therefore, the CAG has never said that has objected to a policy that this amount of revenue has been sought. I think even in BDIS, the CAG was only objecting on the manner in which that policy was, or that scheme was implemented. So I think there is a clear-cut distinction between, what policy is and where CAG can step in and where CAG can. Mr. Sesh Kumar also mentioned about the standards within which, the framework of standards within which we function. I think there is no denying the fact, and all of us who work in the department that we work within a framework of very robust standards and professional practices, which conform to the best practices in the world. Not only this, we ourselves, by virtue of being an active member of what is called the INDOSAI, are ourselves framing those standards. I would say the CAG's representative is almost in all the committees which formulate those standards, whether they be performance audit, compliance, financial audit, any audit, or even areas, functional areas where audit steps. So the question is not that whether we have standards or not. The question, as Mr. Sesh Kumar very rightly highlights in his book, is whether those standards are being adhered to. Right? And he mentions that in the large universe which we audit,
and the large number of offices we have, there is a possibility that we ourselves are not sticking to the standards or conforming to the standards which we have set for ourselves. I completely agree with this, but I would like to go a step further and say why this is not happening. This is, in my opinion, one of the reasons why this is not happening is that I think the amount of audit that SCI of India does is not done by any other SCI. Right? We go to schools in small villages, our audit parties seen with class schools of desks. We go and visit health centers in the remotest part of the country. I have not known, I have served for a long period in international relations, I have not known any other Supreme Audit institution which does this amount. So when you do such a large volume of work, it is very natural that quality is compromised. It is very difficult to monitor whether in each case of audit standards have been adhered to. Right, so there is a dilution in the quality of work because primarily could be because one of the reasons could be this work. And now, it begs the next question: why do we do so much work? We do so much work because there is hardly any internal oversight in this. Right? There is no, so one of the standards we do is placing reliance on the work of the internal audit. But there is no internal audit or internal oversight in any government in India. Have you heard of any audit party going, internal audit team going to a school or somewhere in the official parts of the state? So if we were not to go to a school, if something goes wrong there is nobody else to check it. So I think it's a very interconnected issue which needs to be addressed not only by us, but I think we need to engage the state governments also. That we need to reduce our risk. I would say the same, taking that argument a little further, we go and do so much of international work. We audit all the major international UN international organizations within the UN. The quality of work that we deliver there is top class. I would say we receive accolades, our work is acknowledged, our work is recognized. Why is that? Right? Is it that the clients demand or hold us to higher standards, or we ourselves hold ourselves to higher standards when we go and work in that sector? I think both are true enough. You are dealing with professionals there, so they know what our standards are, so therefore good. But the other thing also is that it's a very top-driven audit when we go to international audit. So you will have teams headed by a AG, you will have two scenarios, maybe a group officer. So that same set of intellectual accumulation, which is there in international audit, is not available in the national jurisdiction. So I think these are the issues which also need to be at some stage looked into and discussed. And I think all of us would be accountant generals in states, especially in states which have opposite offices, which have only one auditor. I would say we know the number of reports we produce, the sort of pressures that are based on our time and resources. And we also know that many times you let things pass because there is no way you have either the time or the resources to do a better job of those things. And when I talk of internal audit, I think Mr. Sesh Kumar talks about the famous Bihar border scam. Right? I'm sure Bihar border scam would not have any effective oversight, internal oversight. Right? This was a very nuts and bolts type of thing where vouchers need to be looked into, whether there were proper documentation available with the vouchers and all, which could have been easily detected by any, have there been an effective internal audit. Mr. Sesh Kumar in his book also talks about DLC. For those who are from outside the department, DLC is launch-level computerization. That is the automation of the entire accounting work that we do. He very rightly mentions that DLC today is outdated, and unless we are able to reincarnate it in a modern avatar, it is going to become redundant and deadable. That is completely, I think there are no two arguments for that. But having said that, I would also like to mention that DLC was introduced in 1999. Right, so it was a long way back. So at that point in time, in 1999, when DLC was introduced, we were using the tools which were available at that. And Mr. Sesh Kumar mentions Oracle. This is based in, grounded in Oracle. Oracle was probably the tool to go to at that point. So we are not, but even in 1999, I must tell you that the CAG was still probably a little ahead of the government as far as automation of work was concerned. Today, I think we all have to agree that the government has moved far beyond us, and we are still sort of rooted in those old times. We're still, as an example itself is PLC, that we are still in PLC, while the government is today rolling out state-of-the-art computer systems. So there is, we need to look at PLC. And I think the important thing to look at PLC is also, because with the advent of IFMs, right, we are this close to losing the accounting. The reason being that IFMS captures each transaction from its very base in an automated system. So nothing stops the state government for writing 2 pages of code to develop the monthly accounts and the finance account. And everything is already, all your basic data, the input of the raw material is there. All you need to do is to write a code and deliver those accounts. So I don't know where that would happen, where would that be? On a personal note, I would also like to mention we are talking of 1999 when PLC was introduced. Mr. Sesh Kumar was in Nagaland in 1989, right? And in Nagaland in 1989-90, imagine in 90, some of my colleagues there, the meal was not even in the service at that time, right? But in 1989-90, the CAG of India had made the first attempt to automate the accounts in India, right? When the world was still struggling with MS-DOS and replays, the CAG had already started automating one of its major functions. So that is where we were, how we were at one time the torchbearers of automation and computerization in the government. And as I said today, we probably need to have sort of look at how we are doing. I'm very happy that Mr. Sesh Kumar mentioned about the finance and revenue accounts. CFI, right? I would say it's a document in post of that even now, right? What I can tell you from my experience, it's such a useful document, it's such a valuable document, especially for policy planning, for academia, and for researchers. It provides you a comparative study of across the states, right, over a period of time. So if you were to do even an audit, say, of a scheme of a Government of India flagship scheme which is taking place across India, I think CFRA is a very valuable. I recall a few years back in one of our audit advisory boards, we had the Vice Chancellor of Punjab University as one of his members. And in every meeting, he would come with a request that my economics department or somebody in the statistics department wants a copy of the CFRA. And unfortunately, as you mentioned, the whole CFRA is now it's become an old. I think the last one is probably 2021. I think AG Accounts Punjab was at one time entrusted with the job of compiling the CFRA. So Mr. Sesh Kumar advocates that we might give up CFRA, but I would still feel that it's a document which is of immense value, not only within the department but outside the department. She mentioned about national resource accounting. You will be aware that the CAG has been the catalyst for getting the states to start compiling national resource accounts. Our first compendium, as mentioned, the book has already come out. I think that's a very, very reputable achievement on the part of the CAG to have engaged the states on this. But the fact remains that accounting, in whatever form, remains an executive function. The CAG can only do so much until you can start the process, you can get the states to compile data. But in the long run, it will be sustained only if there is ownership by the states. And I mention this because I recall that in the early 2000s, somewhere around 2010 to 2015, on the basis of the pressure of the World Bank, there was this move by the CAG to get the states to move on to a dual system of accountability. And I recall that as a pilot project, one public works division in Vidisha, in Madhya Pradesh, was chosen for a pilot study. Of course, they did compile their accounts for 1 year, but eventually the project fizzled out, primarily for the reason that there was no engagement. So we don't want the same thing to happen to the national resource. I'll just finish by saying about who audits the CAG. I think that's a very valid point. I think within the department also this has been discussed. But I'd say there are the people who argue against it, they quote the statutory provisions of either the Constitution or the BPC Act, which says that the CAG is the only authority competent to audit the accounts of the union and the state governments. And since CAG is a part of the union government, so does the CAG audit himself? Because the Constitution of this Act doesn't provide for anybody else to audit. So can CAG? So the argument is that if the CAG were to get somebody from outside, that will not be within the ambit of the statute, but the CAG can of course get it done. And I think Mr. Sesh Kumar makes a very valid point that we had a peer review once, and all developed and STIs, especially in the Western world, get their peer reviews done every alternate year, if not every year. I think we made a beginning, of course. The motives at that time for doing the peer review were a little different, but I think that was good practice. We made a beginning there. It also showed, and I think that peer review was path-breaking in some terms, because no way the government of India had anybody had the maturity or the confidence to get to get a team from outside India, from 6 different SCIs. It was Australia, the best SCIs, Australia, Canada, US, and Denmark. I think it was Denmark. So the best supreme audit institutions, the counterparts of the CAGs in those countries, had sent their people to India as a part of a team and they evaluated our processes. I think that was a very good thing, and I think that should be followed. So I congratulate Dave on a wonderful book, and as I said, it's been an eye-opener. I don't think anybody has attempted this sort of a book on the department before. We of course had histories of the department earlier. And therefore we all, I'm sure, eagerly look forward to your next book. All the best for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing such inside views about your department and providing us the knowledge of your working and all. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so now to our dear audience, I am sure you would be having some questions to Mr. Sesh Kumar. We can take up the questions one by one. Please let us know.
Before my question, I think Omkar ji कहना चाहते हैं, बात करेंगे कुछ want to say something about it? Yes, sir, of course.
Susa, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to express my views on the book written by Mr. Sesh Kumar. We are very happy that a book on the internal working of the state of India has been written by Mr. Sesh Kumar. It's a very bold attempt to get into the working of the internal working of the state. So, such critical book has never been written by anybody. Some attempts have been made partly in the form of various articles in the country, but exhaustive work, intensive work has never been done in the past by any person, and especially at the insider. As Mr. Divansky and Ravi Singh sir, they have dwelt in detail about the topics which have been dealt with in this book, very bold attempt, and certain things, areas, audits, topics which have been audited have been dealt with in this book. For the scam, duty, Commonwealth, and other things have been the subject matter of the book. So, Sesh Kumar, I want to explain to you that I have heard your various videos after the book has been published. Very insight and information has been given to the country through these videos. I was just listening to the video. Editorial producer, which was taken by Mr. Adil Sabro, Secretary Education as well as the Secretary Core, very critical it was there, and he rather questioned even the calculation which has been made in the court about the scheme. So I will be talking about the positive things written in the book, positive things or positive work which has been done by the CAG of India, and also the things which have not been done by the CAG, which are also I think the subject matter of this book also. And because ultimately there are some conceptions and misconceptions about the CAG of India. Let me start by the CAG of India, the only SAI Supreme Order institution. This tourist spectrum has been a matter of big debate. It was a great achievement, seemed to be a great achievement of the CAG of India, but at the end of the day, this department has not been able to defend the audit findings, and even various reports and various media reports have been there, which are saying that the courts are waiting for the evidence from the Government of India, CBI, as well as the CAG. We could not defend our audit findings. Instead of being a big source of achievement or a sense of achievement, the 2G report became the mockery of the CAG of India. And as I mentioned, Gold report, even the Secretary Code, he himself raised the issues about the finding of the calculations which have been made in the CAG report. The Secretary wrote in the report that your calculations are wrong. CAG office did not take into account the realized explanation given by the Board Secretary. I was just listening to the person who was to submit the replies, none other than Mr. Anand Sabro. Nobody else from the media, nobody else from any other sector. But the person who was concerned with the core allocation and the work related with his own activities. We take big pride in saying that photo scan, big achievement, yes, of course, it's a big achievement, and Commonwealth gained findings. But in every state, in almost many departments of the Government of India, scams are happening. Why we could not find all such scams other than the photo scam? Scams are happening in Punjab, scams are happening in Haryana, scams are happening in Nagaland, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand. Why such all scams and fraud which are taking place are not being seen being part of the audit report of the CAG? Scams and frauds are appearing in the media, but scams and frauds are not appearing in the course of the CAG of India. What does this mean? It means that the audit is not being done properly by this supreme audit institution. We can take pride in many achievements, but we have various concerns and worries also about the functioning of the department. I do not quote or cite examples which I have dealt with in various states where I have worked as AG or principal AG in many states. But there's large number of areas, large number of subjects which do not become the subject matter of the audit. Especially, I would like to come to the state of Punjab here. Drug abuse is there, no report by the CAG. Illegal mining is there is no report by the CAG. There are revenue scams happening in all the states, there is no report of the CAG. There is illegal colonies everywhere in the country, including Punjab and all the states in the country. There is no report by the CAG. Escalation, cost escalation. Hospitals may, schools may not be put to use. This is a very clerical kind of audit. Kindly excuse me by using these words. This is clerical audit. You can just send your auditor, get the report done. What we are doing? We are making the audit reports. We are making only the audit reports. The purpose is not to make the audit reports. Purpose is to conduct the audit. And about our functioning, the way we are functioning, our audit reports are being prepared, signed, printed, placed in the assembly, parliament, state assembly, and all that. Then comes the role of the PAC in the center and in the states. Now, Devansi has also said, Purinda Singh has also said, PAC role of this. And the democracy in our setup, whether PAC is the final person, answer is no. Because of reports, even go to the ultimate say, Supreme Court, judiciary is the final arbiter to decide whether the contents of the votes received in India have finality or not. Now, my point is, in the democracy, reports are meant for whom? Reports are meant for only the PAC? My answer is no. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha means Parliament and in the state assembly. I want to quote the replies of the way bureaucrats talk. Report जो बनती बनानी PAC को हमारी है. And we know what happens to reports and reports are. Okay, I have the warning not to continue. So, finish as a day possible. Now we directly on the top. Review. What revenue has been derived, but we do not know what revenue has not been derived or is not been derived. Investigative audit is missing, insight full audit is missing, and Devansi has said no. This amount of work is not being done by any SA in the world. It's basically because the number of the staff we are having, the vastness of the country we are having, and it's not the number which matters, it's the quality of the audit which matters. CAG should decide that every state AG must come up with 3-4 by fraud and scams in the state. Why? Scam and fraud appearing in the media do not become things of the report. And people of the country are ultimately the stakeholders. People of media do not know what happens to the report of the CAG. Why responses have been installed by the CAG of India? What has happened to the media policy of this government of India? Purinda Singh said, to say something in our report, you need willpower and courage. And I see an atmosphere of fear among the INS officers, state AGs, state staff, auditors do not have guts to conduct the board audit. When we say CAG of India is independent, free, constitutional authority, term is secure, post is secure, pay is secure, career is secure. But if all these things are there, then why the audit is not good? What is stopping the CAG from conducting good audit? I cite one example of mine. Hal in Haryana, as well as in Meghalaya, when our principal area of CAG there, parliamentary secretaries were appointed. 91st constitutional amendment says that the size of the cabinet ministers or ministers council of the states in the center and in the states cannot or should not or must not succeed 15%. And various state governments, various state chief ministers of different parties, they started appointing parliamentary secretaries, including Haryana and Madhya Pradesh. And I raised the issue even at AG, A and E, Punjab, because the pay of the officer, MLAs, parliamentary secretaries, they were getting the pay equal to the state minister in the Punjab state. I sent the case to CAG of India's office. I was summoned to headquarters because I questioned because the pay slips of the minister, judges, MLAs is issued by the AG Punjab. I did not issue the pay slips because the appointment of the MLAs as the parliamentary secretary of the parliamentary secretary was against the Constitution of India. And we say CAG of India is to protect the Constitution of India. And Mr. Vijendra, we can call CAG Banerjee, Chandigarh Pandey, they were the causes we had got. Explaining everything to CAG Banerjee, they said everything is okay. But when I received the reply saying, don't raise such objections. We wrote in the file and which the headquarters office conveyed to me. It is this is not for the order and accounts. I'm quoting from the letter of the headquarters. It is not for the audit and accounts officers to interpret the law. It is for the judiciary to interpret the law. I replied back saying, sir, I have not interpreted the law. Law has already been interpreted by the High Court of Himachal Pradesh. I'm only conveying the order issued by the Himachal High Court. Himachal High Court had cancelled the appointments of the Chief Parliamentary Secretary, and the same principle and the same law, same country must apply in Punjab and Haryana also. But again, I received a reply saying, please refer to our letter number so and so and take consideration and issue the pay slips to the MLAs of the Same thing happened to me when I was AD Meghalaya, and same thing happened to me when I was principal in Haryana, and ultimately all the appointments of the chief parliamentary secretaries were cancelled by the Supreme Court of India. If this audit attempt had this been approved by the CAG of India, the credit for this should have gone to the CAG of India and not to the judiciary of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your bold and curious words. I believe that such questioning is the need of the hour, where most of us question the authority only when things get changed. As we come to the end of this memory evening, I'm honored to express gratitude to all who made it special today. A huge thank you to the author, Shri Sesh Kumar for creating this book and sharing this milestone with us. We are grateful to our special guests, Madhudeep Singh, Malvinder Singh, Jagban Singh, and all the members from the INIS for their inspiring words and presence today. We are deeply grateful to our friend and media partner Amit Roy and all the media friends for their support in spreading the word about this launch. A big thank you to the press club staff and team White Falcon for their planning and execution. Finally, to all the wonderful audience, thank you for joining us today. Your presence and love for literature has made this afternoon unforgettable. We hope you enjoy this book, CAG, Ensuring Accountability Amidst Controversies. And we look forward to seeing you in our future literary celebrations as well. Please know that author-signed books are available, and I would request all the guests to enjoy the refreshments now. Thank you.